Continuing באתי לגני, Tafshin Chaf Aleph, the first Maamer of Tafshin Chaf Aleph, in order to explain the idea of Netzach, the concept of the name Tzevois, which that's in the idea of Netzach. So we explained the whole concept of Shemos. The names of Hashem are in the Sfiris. Hashem says, I'm called according to my actions. When I fight with the Rishoyim, I'm called Tzevois. And the question was, is it actions or is it I? Actions means the Sfiris, the channels, the way they come down. I is Hashem himself. And so we explained the whole concept of how the name of Hashem is revealed through the Sfiris, and that Havaya and Adnai, Hashem's name means the revelation, but then there's what's above revelation. But when can the actual essence, the above revelation itself, also be revealed? When there's Nimna and Nimnois, when there's a connection of two opposites. Because two opposites can only be connected, both the physical and the spiritual. The spiritual is not a revelation of the essence of Hashem because it's limited in being spiritual. The physical is also not a revelation of the essence of Hashem because it's limited in being physical. When physical and spiritual can come together, that's the revelation of the essence of Hashem. And that's why we explained that there's three explanations in Eilav Elolim Midaisav. According to Kabbalah explains that the names of Hashem are the spirituality of the Sfiris. Chassidus HaKlal, is the Baal Shem Tov explains, the names of Hashem is sort of, so to speak, the physicality of the Sfiris, because that's even higher than the spirituality, the fact that even in the lower essence of physicality, godliness can be revealed. And Chassidus Chabad, which is the one that gives the idea of the connection of both, explains that's the essence of Hashem. The connection that there is between the two opposites of physical and spiritual, that's where the essence of Hashem is revealed, and that's the idea of Chassidus Chabad, the ability to, on one hand, be understanding that in order to be drawn down here, it comes down through a specific channel, and at the same time, the fact that Hashem and the world can be connected, that means when we're dealing with the very essence of Hashem. Now we continue in Ois Dalid. What's to explain and understand the connection of Netzach, of victory, to the idea of war? Like we said, victory means that the essence of Hashem. When he wins when he fights with the Rishoyim, we're calling him Netzach. So the Maamer explains by first explaining what is Netzach. The whole concept of victory is connected specifically to a person that's bigger. Someone who's smaller, not all the things are so important for him. Some things he'll fight for, and some things he won't fight for. Only the king, a gadol, a greater person, he's the one who has this power of victory. And like the king, regarding whom we say that his shoulders are higher than the rest of the people, meaning the shoulders, that is the back, the lower part, is lower than the head. And we call all, even the shoulders of the king is higher than the head of all the people. By a king, specifically by a king, there is able to be the power of victory in all concepts. And his victory is very powerful, and it's an ultimate idea of victory. What does that mean? So let's look at the concept. When we're talking about katan and gadol over here, we don't mean a child and an older person. Even an older person, compared to what we're dealing with here, is considered like a child. We mean someone that is small. In what is he small? In what is the person small? Even in the fact that he has perfection. the katan, the smallness that we're discussing over here, is that he's limited to have whatever it is to be perfect in his intellect, in his emotions, in his feeling, in everything. This person is perfect. And yet that perfection is considered smallness. Smallness meaning it's limited. And therefore you can't have nitzachon, because since I'm limited, I understand certain things, I feel certain things, there's certain things that are worth it for me to stand up and to put myself out for, to fight for them, and there's certain things that are not worth it for me. Because I'm limited, I have certain things that I understand are greater, certain things that I understand are smaller, certain things that I feel are bigger, and certain things that I feel are smaller, and therefore I'm not going to fight for everything. Some things are just not worth it for me to fight for. That's a katan. Who's a gadol? Who do we mean a gadol? A gadol, we give the example a king. How do we explain a king? What's a king? Mishichmoi v'mayla gavaya mikol am. Shichmoi means the aspect of the king which comes from his head. The aspect of the king which comes usually by a person, the shechem, the shoulders are behind the brain, they're under the brain. Many times it refers to the midas, the emotional attributes that come from the head, but they're not the head itself. But in general, it means anything which isn't the head itself. The head itself is the king of the entire body. The head itself controls the body. It's the intellect. Everything is based on a person's intellect, even his emotions. Every aspect of the person comes from the intellect, comes from the brain. Something which is below the brain, it's not that which is understood, it's not that which is spiritually connected and recognized. Shichma is that which comes from it. For the king, that shechem, that which comes from the brain, is higher and above the brain of the rest of the people. The rest of the people means everyone. Meaning the whole concept of intellect, even by the greatest of the people in the nation, that whole concept of intellect, that whole limitation of intellect, for the king, that's not what he is all about. That's all shichmai, that's all what comes from his head. For the king, the head is something which is beyond. It's beyond limitation, beyond what is usually limited by the intellectual understanding or the emotional feeling. For the king, there's an essential concept called kingdom. He's removed and above everyone else, not because he's smarter than them, because all of that, the wisdom, and everything else which is for all the other people, meaning this concept of the spiritual or physical feelings or understanding, for the king, that's not what it's all about. That's only shichmai. That's only what comes from his head. The head by him is above and removed from the limited understanding. And therefore, for him, for the king, that's where there's the power of netzach, victory, and it doesn't come sometimes yes, sometimes not, because it's not coming from an understanding, it's not coming from a feeling, it's not coming from something that's limited, it's coming from the very essence of the king, that the very essence of the king feels the need to win, to be victorious. And now we'll explain this, and not just feels the need, but the need to the extent that it comes powerfully. What does this mean, Va'inyan? The middle, the Rebbe explains at length. And it's also explained in short in the Maamer of the Frierdiker Rebbe באתי לגני. In general, in a war, there's two aspects that can be in a war. Aleph, one is lishlol shalal v'lav his buzz. A person wants to fight a war in order to accomplish something. Accomplishing something is to get spoils, to win something, to gain something, whatever it is that the person's trying to gain. The second is not in order to accomplish something, it's in order to win. that everything should go according to the way he wants it. What's the difference between these two aspects in war? The war, in order to gain spoils, is something which is based on understanding. It's limited, it's measured according to a specific understanding. He imagines in himself, how much am I able to win? And that's how he gives himself over in the war. Which means the first idea is I want to gain something. Gaining something, no matter what I want to gain, no matter how great that thing I want to gain, it's limited to an understanding or a feeling which is causing me to want to gain. It's something which is measured and limited. And that's why also how much I'll fight is also limited. This type of war, even a small minister can be fighting, because it's a limited thing. There's Roish, the head of all the people, whoever they may be. They understand that there's something I have to win. War, in order to be victorious, that's not measured, that's not limited. It's not defined by an understanding or a feeling. The only one who can have that type of war, only a king can. Because it's something which is not a limited thing and not a measured thing. When the war comes out of the reason of victory, that's what causes the war. Then the king squanders all of his treasures, and the treasures of his ancestors. It's an amazing kingly treasures. There is such a precious and pleasant fortune that's in there. What's a treasure? A treasure is something that's hidden. A treasure is something which is not defined, it's not understood, because it's not used. If a person had a treasure, he has a big bank account with lots of money that he's using or that he's able to use or that he eventually may use, that's not a treasure. The treasure is things which they have no use, there's no understanding what they're for. They're hidden, nobody looks at them even. V'rak, only when does he even look at them? Is only b'simchas b'no yechida v'chadoy maz megal lakelis Yisreisav. When it comes to wedding of his only son, that's reaching a level which is beyond understanding. It's joy. It's such it's a boundless and a limitless joy. That's why he opens up those treasures. But even then, it's not to use them. It says so he doesn't use them and definitely doesn't squander them. When it comes to winning the war, in order to win, that things should be the way he wants it, and especially when there's someone who's rebelling against him, for the victory, not only he takes out the treasures, he uses them not, he only uses them, he squanders them beyond limit, because that is what reaches the essence of what it's all about. Victory is rooted in the essence of the soul. And because of this, not only does he squander the treasures, which means the things which are beyond understanding, beyond reason, he squanders them without any explanation, without any limit, without any definition, without any measurement and cheshbon. Moreover, he even puts his life in danger. He himself goes out to war. Midah of netzach, in the essence of the soul, which is higher than the revealed life. He's ready to put his revealed life in danger for the victory, because that's rooted in the essence of the soul. That's the sphere of netzach. That's the name tzvois. This name of tzvois is rooted in the essence of Hashem. Netzach musher b'etzem hanefesh, just like in the analogy of Netzach, that it's in the essence of the soul. And therefore, in order to win the war, Hashem reveals, not only reveals, but he squanders. Those things which are above understanding, beyond reason. Why? In order to win the war, because that's also rooted in the essence of the soul, which is beyond reason and understanding.